When we emigrated to America, we did feel that there can be a world without the enormous hostility that we experienced, but that we had to do it ourselves. And that, in fact, that the reason we survived the Nazis, the reason we were saved, was that we had to do this. It became more and more clear to George and me that we needed to be off on our own. We decided to go to Michigan for a year. That was really the beginning of Roper's school, because that year that we had planned to be there became 50 years.
I did pictures and wrote poems about them.
You want to show us one or read us one?
Yeah, this is my favorite one. A rock by itself in the misty water. A rock by itself sits there while the water passes by. A rock by itself sees the trees grow and die. A rock by itself is not alone.
We got a toad! We just found a toad.
And I said, George, we're starting school tomorrow. What would you like me to teach? And he said, whatever you think is proper, whatever you think you should teach, that's what you teach.
Well, George Roper was very impressive, and yet when he spoke, he was very gentle.
There was a little boy who had trouble at school. My father said, well, I'll pick him up every morning. And he drove to his house and picked him up. Just drove to school with them. 6 or 7 minutes, when I think they probably didn't even say very much. Just sat next to him. And somehow he gave him some confidence in the legitimacy of who he was just by traveling in the car next to him.
I've not done this with you before, but when you add them together, you start with the units. Count your units or your ones and see how many you have.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 666.
How'd you know that?
Because these will all be 6.
Why? How did you know that inside?
Because I did 202 and 22 and 444, and I did 3 2s and 3 4s, and 2 plus 4 equals 6. 6.
Our children in the other schools got into 1st grade. It was torture for them. We could see the child, our oldest son, changing. They had all this busy type of work to a point where he stopped doing things, you know. He just ignored them after a while.
Annemarie has the ability to come at things in a different angle and to remind us that there are things that we haven't thought about. She always brings us back to things we should think about. We may not agree with her, but she always makes us think.
We gave up the traditional classroom structure. We mixed the ages. Children got away from the notion of hierarchy, that older is better, which at the time created a great deal of uproar because the parents seemed to feel that that was too much of a departure from the traditional.
As an adult, when I thought about my family and my parents and my grandparent, but my family, my parents most directly, I sometimes felt that there was this baffling arrogance, that the idea that they thought they knew best about how to educate kids, they knew best about how to create a model community, just seemed to me to take so much nerve, so much presumptuousness.
I remember when they had the race riots in Detroit, My parents' immediate response was to advertise having an integrated camp. As soon as the race riots were done, they just went in the exact opposite direction. And there was just no question about it. They just did it. But when I thought about it more, there was none of the atmosphere of courage about it. It was sort of clarity. This is what we do. This is how we do it. We don't do it in an angry way. We don't even do it in a loud way. We just do exactly what we think is right and almost assume that everybody agrees with us even if they don't.